Welcome back to Next Shift with Rick Wagan and Abe Wagan. Suzuki does not suck. We just lost Abe Wagan, and he's back, and he's gone, and he's back. The Montreal Canadiens win tonight, 4-3 against the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Montreal Canadiens go back-to-back nights in overtime. This time, winning the game 4-3 on a goal by Nick Suzuki. They started the game off with behind on a goal by Matthew Olivier that was assisted by Zach Werenski and Zachary Aston Reese. Yaroslav Koski scored a great goal going down the wing on a 2-on-1, firing it blocker side, beating the goaltender and making it 1-1 at the end of the first period. The Columbus Blue Jackets scored again early in the second period. Yegor Chinnikov scored, and then the Montreal Canadiens tied it up again with a goal by Cole Caulfield on a breakaway pass from Juraj Slafkovsky on the power play to make it 2-2, and that's how the second period ended. In the third period, the Montreal Canadiens took a lead on a great goal by Emil Heineman on an up pass by Jake Evans and a board pass by Joel Armia to take the 3-2 lead. And then Zach Werenski scored a goal, banking it off Gouli's skate to make it 3-3 and putting the game into overtime. There was a lot of chances in the third period. Primo came up big, made some big stops. And then, like I said, Nick Suzuki finished it off in overtime on a shot off his own rebound to make it 4-3. It was a great win by the Montreal Canadiens. They get 3 points, 3 out of 4 points. The Montreal Canadiens, ended up, I believe, 3-1-1 in their last five. Obviously, that one loss was a terrible 6-2 loss. But other than that one game, they've been playing a much more solid game. And all in all, I felt like a lot of the key players played well tonight. If you think about Juraj Slafkovsky, he was hitting everything that moved. He was playing very solid, both ends of the ice. Nick Suzuki had his legs tonight, looked very, very strong. Cole Caulfield scored another goal. A lot of great defense by Gouli, Jack-Eye. Hudson had a good game. It was just a good overall game, and it feels like the Montreal Canadiens are back. I'm sitting here with my father, Abe Wagan, who's joined the show for the first time. We talk a lot about the Canadiens. He remembers the good old days when the Montreal Canadiens won 4-5 cups in a row at times, and it's frustrating for him. It's frustrating for him to watch this team rebuild. It was an interesting game because if you think about what I've been talking about on this show, there's 6 or 7 players that matter, and let's kind of run through those players first. When I talked about Slafkovsky, best game of the year I think he's played. Talked about Suzuki, definitely been inconsistent this year, but looked like this Nick Suzuki of old. Caulfield played another solid game. He's been getting a lot of assists, but he finally potted his 13th goal of the season. Doc was skating tonight. I don't think he had as strong of a game, but he was skating tonight. He was playing with Roy. It looked like a good pairing. He was with Roy and Anderson. They mixed up the lines a little bit, and Gallagher was actually playing with Dvorak and Juraj Slafkovsky. And Jake Evans had a solid outing as well. On defense, like I said, Gouli and Hudson have looked really solid. And Primo did not give up any bad goals. So all in all, it was a good game. So Abe, what did you think of the game? What do you think of the Montreal Canadiens tonight?
Well, hi. First of all, good evening to everybody, and it's very exciting for me to sit next to this very enthusiastic Hab fan, a guy that I probably made into a Hab fan by having him on my knee since he's like 14 months old. But actually started when he was 14 months old, and he was on my knee when Paul Henderson scored a goal for Canada in 1972 to beat the Russians in the great series, the great Soviet-Canadian series. And I think I must have jumped something into his spirit about hockey forever with that goal. He doesn't know about it, but I think the reason I decided to do this is that hoping that, I'm kind of a very spiritual guy, as our little group knows, and do these little prayers or something. But hopefully tonight, by doing this, it might be the start of a winning streak. And I mean, they certainly were it was like black and white. They played like 60 minutes of hockey, and everybody who hasn't been playing well played well. And that's what hockey is. It's a game of chemistry and effort and enthusiasm, and hopefully we're going to start turning some corners. I do agree. Like the last 5 games have been better. I'm trying to understand what could be a turning point. I don't know what you think. Um, I, I think I don't know. You can't really point your finger on one thing the last 5 games other than that might be the coaching or management or something. What do you think, Rick?
No, I mean, so like one of the things you listen when we're talking to Martin St. Louis in interviews, etc., you see that he's really concentrated on the defensive side of the puck. And initially in the early part of the season, they were playing a man-on-man hybrid, in the defensive zone, and you could see they were just having a hard time picking it up. And other than a few mistakes last 2 games ago, the Montreal Canadiens, probably in the last 10 games, have figured out how to play a better defensive side of the puck side, area. I think one of the things they're trying to figure out is how can they counterattack and how can they score goals. The biggest problem or the biggest deficiency of the Montreal Canadiens this year, in my opinion, has been their lack of effort. And it shows that a lot of the errors, a lot of the mistakes are done through lack of effort, whether it's back checking when a defenseman pinches, whether it's giving up a turnover and then just not getting on your legs and pushing forward. So all in all, I think that's what I've seen is the Canadians in the last 5 games, other than one game, they had their effort, they had their legs, they were pushing, and that's what's I think changing the way they're executing. So that's my take. Do you agree, disagree? Do you have any comments on that one?
Yes, of course. It looks like there's a bit of I wouldn't call it lack of effort. I'm wondering if whether they're just being too cerebral. It's almost like they're learning something and they're supposed to be in a certain, I might be wrong, but they're trying to learn a system and they think they're supposed to be in a certain place and do certain things. But hockey's so fast that it doesn't quite happen the way the system is projected for them, and then they have to readjust. So they're thinking too much instead of like just like you say, like just playing with spirit and work ethic. It's maybe I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Maybe that Martin St. Louis is trying to set in a really amazing system that he believes in either later this year or in a year or two will be the one that will win because it's the one he's learned about or he knows will win. And obviously he knows a lot about hockey, but he's also learning. He's a new coach, and there's more than just X's and O's and systems, and it's a fastest game on earth. And so what I believe is that you need to have a system, but you need to have consistent, strong players and consistent effort. And maybe these guys are a little bit too young to understand that. I mean,
That,
they've come up the system as stars, and a lot of them make a lot of money, and they're having fun and they're being respected by their management to follow a system. But it's sometimes I get the feeling it's more the aura of being on the Montreal Canadiens and being part of a system, and not really the guts of going for it and winning and beating the guy to the puck. There's something, man, hopefully it will come. But
you're saying a lot of the right things, in my opinion. It's exactly what you're saying, which is this is a young team. Their core players are 20 to 24 years old, and they're putting in a system that is challenging. And if you play against this players playing in solid systems that are 26 to 30 years old, they've been playing in these systems for 4 or 5 years and have learned how to do what you're saying the Canadians are having trouble doing. And that's where the growing pains are showing, in my opinion. And so the biggest issue for me is what Martin St. Louis is saying is when we figure out this system, and this is the time to figure it out. Once the Montreal Canadiens figure out the system, they're going to be a much harder team to play against, and they're trying to create an aura within their team to be a tough team to play against on the defensive side of the puck. And they're learning, and there's been some growing pains. I think what we're seeing is we're 20 games into the season. Took them about 15, 16 games to figure it out. They're starting to figure it out. And the way you figure it out is using a lot more effort, a lot more energy on the defensive side of the puck. So when you are one on one, you're winning battles. So I think we're seeing the same things in one way or another. But what I think what we have to understand is that's what's part of the rebuild. That's part of the growing pains. So let's talk a little bit about the specific game, or even let's talk about the last couple of games, and we'll run through some of the players. Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson was -1 today. He did have 5 hits. He got a penalty. I thought he played a solid game. He played some really great defensive hockey on the penalty kill. Montreal Canadiens didn't give up a power play goal in the last 3 games at least. I don't know if they did it 4 games ago. They've been very solid, and he's been a key contributor. What's your thoughts of Josh Anderson?
Oh, well, he's, he from blue line to blue line, including center ice, and he's a very impressive player. I mean, he's fast and he has breakneck speed and bursts out. He's also done a great job on the power play. I think he's learned a lot from the coaches, and he's been very effective. Again, he's doing some kind of following some kind of penalty killing system. It's simple for him, maybe. He's so powerful and fast that he can do it. It's very smart. That's he's doing his role very well, and he is what he is.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And then Joel Armia. What's your thoughts about him? I know you've always been a bit of a fan of his.
I love his strength on the boards. I just love it how powerful he is in coming up with pucks. And I just like him. He could, he's never really played with top scorers, just here and there. Of course, I remember him from the great line of Perry and Stahl and Army. I think that's where I admire him so much for on the Stanley Cup run. They were the fourth line, but really they were the first line because they just like Stahl and Armia just controlled the boards like nobody's business. So I always admire him. I'd hate to see him go for the Canadians. I mean, that's all there is. I think if he got in some kind of same kind of line with one or two other guys like that, that could be a scorer, and there just aren't enough scorers. He could be effective like that.
I'll kind of run through the players. Cole Caulfield had a great game. Kirby Doc, what's your thoughts of him lately? What's your take on that?
Well, he had a terrible injury, and I think he needs some time. I mean, I'm willing to give him the time. I hope it's not an attitude problem. It shouldn't be, but I don't know. I'm disappointed. That's what I have to say. But it's only 20 games in or something, 25 games in, and coming back from an ACL. So let's see what he's like in February.
All right. I'll just run through a couple more players. Yuri Slafkovsky, what was your thoughts of him tonight?
I you know I I thought he played really well. I didn't think he got as much ice time. I saw the goal. I saw his involvement. Am I right? He didn't get quite as much
I
ice
mean,
time as the
he
others.
got 13 minutes, which is close to his average ice
Oh, he did?
time. He
Okay.
doesn't play on the penalty kills so he got on the power play, had a few shifts. All in all, I thought he had
Well,
a
my
solid.
thoughts about him is that he's full of potential.
Right.
He's a happy-go-lucky guy, and he's not intense enough and consistent enough. And he's not serious enough yet. He's young. And it's part of the same thing we talked about before. He's learning a system and he's more interested in learning the system than actual competing man to man for the puck. It's something like that. He's one of the key examples of that.
All right. Running through the lineup, is there anyone that came off the page, good or bad for you in terms of, I know we had comments about Barron, we had comments about
Let me
Primo.
say Lane Hudson. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a huge fan. I haven't seen such an exciting player on the Canadians in 15 years. I mean, everyone thought he would be too small, possibly, and get hurt or just get beat all the time. He's leaning on guys that are 6'2" and that are all over him and keeping the puck like in every situation. I just cannot believe how good he is. And I guess it's because of his balance and his amazing skating ability. But he is great, and he doesn't play enough with Caulfield and Suzuki, and that has got to happen more. And when he does, you're going to see like fireworks on this team.
There's 2 games in a row the Montreal Canadiens played without Mike Matheson uh, on defense. Lane Hudson did play on the power play one. They did get a power play goal. He got an assist on that. What's your? Oh no, he didn't actually. It was actually Slavkovsky that assist. He got an assist on the penalty on the overtime goal. What's your take on Mike Matheson? Do you feel like Mike Matheson contributes, or do you think he's somebody that's going to be on this team for years to come, or what's your take? A lot of people are kind of on the fence on that one.
Yeah, well, I don't really know what to say. He's an enigma. I don't know. He's an enigma. That's all I want to say about him.
What does that mean?
He's an enigma. He has one.
I know what it means, but
He
what do you want?
in 3 steps he can take the puck out of his zone,
Right,
which is like nobody else can do that, and that's big. But it's what he does next that scares me,
right.
and that's one thing. And defensively, he's not really that bad defensively if he sticks to defensively. But sometimes he'll just make that wrong lunge and the wrong decision and leave something open. And it usually happens almost every game, and he tries to do too much, and someone should just put him in his place. Like he should be like a fourth defenseman, and
That's what
just
it
be
is.
solid.
Right.
That's it.
So I agree with that. I think where it fits is what we have with the Montreal Canadiens is they're just in the wrong chairs. I think that the Canadiens defensemen, Gooley and Hudson, and eventually Mailloux and Reinbacher are going to be the top four defensemen. And if you can have Matheson as your fifth or sixth defenseman, I think that's where he might be best served. He can play a little bit of power play time, maybe power play two. He can play on the, he could play it on as the third line defenseman and be a solid contributor to a team. However, he can also be replaced by a Struble or something like that. It all depends. The Canadians will have some offensive defensemen coming up with Mailloux and Hudson. Gooley could play more offense. Just to be transparent on this channel, we talk a lot about Matheson in the early part of the year. He had 62 points last year. I thought he had enough value that they can trade him and get some quality return. And I still believe that. I feel like the Montreal Canadiens proved this last couple of games that they could play without Mike Matheson. Their defensemen are young, but they could play without him. If they can get assets for that player, I wouldn't hesitate if I was Kent Hughes and Gorton. That's my take. Um, Other than that, anyone else that comes off the page that you want to talk about, or negative or positive? I know we had Barron obviously gave up a pretty weak goal in the first goal of the game. He was -2 today, had a penalty. I don't think he played a very solid game. Other than that, I thought the team played a good game, overall. Any other?
Yeah, well, yeah, well. I just find that the defense is young and inconsistent. And let's face it, I mean, you're playing against another team, and we play all kinds of levels of different teams. And sometimes our defense will look good, and sometimes it will look bad. We do not have. I'll just like sum it up by saying we do not have like an all-star defenseman, a league all-star defense. We don't like you need sometimes to win cups or make the playoffs. None of our guys do
Lane
have that.
Hudson is not that.
Well, he will be,
Yeah, Caden Gooley's not that.
no,
Okay.
no.
All right. Well, we can differ on that one. Caden Gooley's 22 years old, so we'll
We
see.
no, but we don't have an all-star defenseman.
Well,
That's
but
right now playing like an all-star
well, no,
defenseman.
because that's why they're not ready to play in the.
Well,
They're not to be in the mix. That's
okay,
what it is.
so I'm okay. To go back what you said at the beginning, I'm used to watching the Montreal Canadiens from 1957. Doug Harvey, what's his name, Johnson, Laperriere, Savard, Lapointe. They always had a top goalie and two or three league top defensemen, and that's what it takes to win Stanley Cups. I'm not saying we have to win a Stanley Cup, but we don't even have one,
That, but
of
but
those.
what we're saying here on the Montreal
We don't
Canadiens.
have even one of
No,
them.
but what we're saying on the Montreal Canadiens is
Yeah.
they are in a rebuild. They're in year three of a
And there's
rebuild.
no guarantee anyone of them will become a star.
There's no
Maybe
guarantee.
Hudson. Maybe Hudson.
But you don't know if Hudson or Mailloux or Gooley or
Oh, come
Reinbacher.
on.
You don't know. You don't know. You don't know yet.
Yeah.
They're only 20 to 21 years old.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So that's the point. And that's what the Montreal Canadiens are hoping. If you get one or two of those guys, and personally, I believe that two of those guys, maybe three of those guys, are going to be all-star defensemen. That's my take. All right. Let's kind of cut it short. The Montreal Canadiens win tonight 4-3 in overtime. Nick Suzuki was the first star. Zach Werenski was the second star. Yuri Slafkovsky was the third star. I'm going to put a fourth star out there, and I would love for you to comment on that fourth star. Emil Heineman. Emil Heineman scored a beautiful goal for back-to-back games now. He's had goals What's your take on Emil Henneman? I feel he's a great skater. He reminds me of Alex Tuck or of a little bit of a Kreider. What's your take on him? He's a young
How old
player.
is he?
He's 22 years old,
Yeah,
21, I think.
yeah, I think he's a really good upside. I think, yeah, he could be a solid second, third line winger anytime, and maybe better. But it's again, we're full of this kind of promise, and I'm a guy that's seen 24 Stanley Cups, and I'm just a little bit impatient. Not like you. You're looking for the future, and as long as they give it like a game today, like in a game like yesterday, it's 3-3, it's 2-2. There's good plays back and forth. I'm willing to spend a year or two watching, 3 years watching that. I kind of enjoyed like two-thirds of last year, but I didn't like the way it's going so far this year until the last 5 games. I don't know. There's just something was they were like losing too many games by too much. Goaltending was not very good, and we haven't talked about that today, but it has not been good. And I'm disappointed, and that's a key thing too. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where it is.
All right. So let's talk about that really quickly too.
Hmm.
Caden Primo had 21 saves on 24 shots. He made some solid saves at the end of the game to keep the Canadians in it. I felt like Caden Primo basically had one last chance, in my opinion. I feel like the last game where he kind of blew up and was terrible. And this game he came in and didn't look great in the beginning, didn't make any bad mistakes, didn't make any huge saves, but by the end of the game, he was making some big saves. I think he bought himself at least another game before he gets waived to Laval. And then obviously Montembeault has been playing solid hockey the last few games as well. What's your take on Caden Primo tonight and in general?
Well, I mean, any goalie would have had a good night tonight. Any goalie for the Canadians would have had a good night tonight. The Canadians were massively good in their own end. They allowed very few top-notch chances, and yeah,
Okay.
so that's on my tonight. So I'm not going to be negative. He didn't let in any bad goals. I don't want to go on record about him. I'm still saying wait and see, but I'm kind of surprised he's still
Well,
playing.
I've went on record. I don't believe Caden Primo is the number one goalie of the future. I don't think he's a number two goalie of the future. I think Montreal Canadiens have a guy like Jacob Fowler in the ranks. Montembeault is better than him and not that much older. And then you have Dobish and others in the minor leagues that can play. So Caden Primo
Do
bought
you
himself
think he
some
can
time.
play in the NHL?
No, I mean Caden Primo will never be a number one goalie in
Do you think
NHL.
he can play in the
I mean,
NHL?
he's playing in the NHL and he won a game tonight, so yeah, but I don't think he's going to ever be a number one
Anyway,
goalie.
yeah.
So I thought Joshua Watt played a good game today. I thought he looked a lot better. And then last but not least, Alex Newhook. He was 6 out of 7 in the face-off dot. He won a lot of face-offs. Other than that, he didn't perform any triple axles or quadruple jump flips. I thought he looked pretty good tonight. So all in all, it was a great game for the Montreal Canadiens. They win 4-3. They come back Saturday night against the New York Rangers, and then they're back to back with the Boston Bruins on Sunday. Any other comments before we go for this show?
Well, I hope it's the start of well, the last 5 games are good. Let's continue. We have a tough game next game. But I'm happy for tonight.
Habby, it's Habby. All right, that's it for next shift. That's it for Rick Wagan and Abe Wagan. Suzuki does not suck. Looking forward to next
Oh,
time.
you're gonna tell him that story?
No, we're not going to
Okay,
say
we're
this.
not telling that.
We're not.
Leave that for a future
All right,
episode.
for a future episode. Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.